Jungle.
Hello class, I am Rowena Escortus, your teacher and your science buddy for today's adventure. Come on, join me and let's explore the amazing world of science. Materials that float or sink. This is lesson 2 of quarter 1, week 1. At the end of the lesson, you would be able to classify materials based on their ability to float or sink. Before we start, let us have a quick review on our previous lesson. What can you remember about our lesson? So amazing! We talk about the materials that absorb water. I have here 2 materials. Which material absorb water and which does not? It's amazing! The sponge is the material that absorbs water. It is an example of porous material. Porous material contains small holes that allow air or liquid to pass through, so they absorb water. While the plastic bag is an example of non-porous material, it does not absorb water. It does not contain small holes that allow air or liquid to pass through. That is the difference of porous material and non-porous material. I'll repeat, porous material absorbs water while non-porous material does not absorb water. Have you ever tossed some sticks into the pond or river? Or maybe you like to bring a bunch of toys into the tub while taking a bath. Either way, you probably found that not all objects act the same when they are in the water. Some materials float and some materials sink. Why does that situation happen? What are some things that float or sink into the water? This calls for an experiment.
The materials that are needed: empty container with water, a plastic bottle. You will also need a coin, drinking straw, leaf, stick, pebbles, rubber ball, nail, plastic spoon, and metal fork. What are you going to do is to put the materials one at a time in the container with water. Observe if the materials will float or sink.
What did you observe when we place the materials one at a time in the water? Correct! Some materials float and some of them sink. Based on the activity, which of the material sank? It's amazing! the metal fork, the coin, the nail, and the pebbles sank in the water. Now, based on the activity, which of the materials floated? It's amazing! The plastic spoon, the empty plastic bottle, the stick, and the leaf floated. I want you to look at the group of objects that sank. Compare them. What can you say about them? So here they are. Yes, they are made of metal and are heavy in weight. So they sank. Look also at the group of objects that floated. Compare them. Is there anything common among each one? The plastic spoon, the empty plastic bottle, the stick, and the leaf commonly are light in weight. Now sink means to fall to the bottom of the water, while float means to stay on top. Some things float on top of the water. Some things submerge partway down, and some things sink. Some things sink very fast, while some things sink very slowly. Why does this happen?
An object shape can affect
Its ability to float. But some materials float no matter what their shape, such as the styrofoam and balsa wood. Here's an example of a styrofoam. And here is an example of the balsa wood. No matter how big they are, they always float into the water. Generally, remember that objects that are light in weight and made up of plastic and wood materials tend to float, and those that are heavy and made of iron or metal tend to sink. Always remember that, class. Now, let's try this. Identify if the materials sink or float. We have here disposable glass. What do you think? Does it sink or float? It's amazing! Disposable glass floats. Why? Because disposable glass is made up of plastic and is light in weight. Next, we have here scissors. Does it sink or float? Scientific. Scissors will sink into the water. Why? It is because scissors are made up of metal and are heavy in weight. And the last one, we also have here the floater, or what we call the salbabida. Do you think it will sink or it floats? Scientastic! It floats. It floats because it is made up of light material and plastic. Now I also have here this material. What do we call this? Any guess? It's amazing! This is a life vest. What do you think? Does it sink or float? Very good! Life vests float into the water. Where can we see life vest? When do we use life vests? Who uses them? Why do they use life vests? Let's answer those questions. Life vests can usually be seen on boats and on beaches. The people who are going for a swim or picnic use them. Why do they use it? They use life vests to protect themselves from drowning. Class, it's picnic season. Remember to take safety precautions when going for a swim. Use a life vest, especially when we don't know how to swim, to prevent ourselves from drowning. That's a friendly reminder. So class, since you have understood the concept, let's remember this. Sink means to fall to the bottom of the water, while float means to stay on top. Remember, generally, objects that are light in weight and made up of plastic and wood materials tend to float, and those that are heavy and made of iron or metal tend to sink. Now let's check if you really understood our lesson. Let's test ourselves. Identify if the material sink or float. Number 1, we have here a styro lunchbox. Does it sink or float? So amazing! Float! How about hollow blocks? What's the answer? Sink or float? Very good! Sink! Hollow blocks sink because they are heavy. How about the bamboo chair? Does it sink or float? Fantastic! The answer is float because it's made up of wood and it's light. The next one, hammer. Does it sink or float? Terrific! Hammer sinks in the water because it is heavy and it's made up of metal. And the last one, we have here a ping pong ball. A ping pong ball float in the water. Why? Because it's made up of plastic and it's light in weight. Here's another activity. Classify the following materials. Write them on the proper column. These are the materials: Galva roofing, paper plate, empty plastic jar, bag of cement, cloth, ring, iron bar, and cellophane. Now here's the table that you're going to fill in. I'm going to give you 1 minute to answer this. Take your time. Now let's check if you got the answers. This is the correct answer. The materials that sink, we have Galva roofing, bag of cement, cloth, iron bar, and ring. While on the column of float, we have paper plate, empty plastic jar, cellophane. Scientastic kids! It seems that you really understood our lesson. Once again, this is your teacher Rowena Corpus saying, always have fun in learning and it will keep you growing. Goodbye until next time!